Dragons Rising Season 4 Part 2 was just leaked and accidentally released early by Tubi, an American streaming service, giving fans a chance to see the entire second half of the season ahead of time. And after seeing how the story ends, it might have just delivered on one of the biggest endings we've ever seen in Ninjago. Lloyd dies, Lord Rez walks away with exactly what he wanted, and the final few minutes may have already revealed what Season 5 is building towards. But here's the thing, there are a lot of details that are easy to miss, and some of them completely change how we should look at the final. So let's break down everything that happened and what it could mean going forward. But before we jump in, this video contains full spoilers for the ending of Season 4 Part 2, so if you haven't watched it yet, now's your chance to click away. The ending wastes absolutely no time wrapping up several storylines that have been building throughout the season. The biggest example of that is Imperium. After everything that happened, it really feels like this chapter of the story is finally over. Sora's parents decided to leave after realizing how far things had gone under Imperium's rule. You might see them again, but we will only find out later. But their separation definitely feels like the writers are closing the part of Sora's story. At the same time, Beatrix briefly returns before being stopped almost immediately, and Dr. Leroux only makes a very short appearance. Neither character gets a huge role in the final, which makes me think this wasn't setting them up for another comeback. Instead, it feels like the writers wanted to end their storyline before shifting the focus to something much bigger, because once the Imperium storyline is out of the way, the final goes all in on two major things, Lloyd and Lord Rez. Let's start with Lloyd, because this is easily the moment everyone is going to be talking about. During the battle, Lloyd takes control of the Weapon of Desolation in an attempt to stop its destructive power. For a brief moment, it actually works, but then everything changes. Lloyd disappears in a massive burst of green energy. If you watch the ending, your first reaction was probably the same as mine. Did Lloyd actually just die? Technically yes, but he hasn't fully died. Instead of completely disappearing from the story, Lloyd appears in a spiritual form, where he meets Jay. That changes everything, because if Lloyd was truly gone forever, there wouldn't really be a reason to show his existence beyond that moment. In fact, his new form looks incredibly similar to what we've already seen with Master Wu. That's interesting. Is this actually connected to the first Pinjitsu Master? Throughout Dragons Rising, we've already seen that Wu still exists in some way, despite no longer physically represent. Lloyd now appears to be in a very similar state, which could suggest this is something unique to their bloodline. Maybe this is an ability passed down through the first Pinjitsu Master. Maybe this is something Wu learned before disappearing. Or maybe we're only now beginning to understand what happens to descendants of the first Pinjitsu Master after that. This is definitely not the end for Lloyd, since he also has a new upcoming set for 2027. The memorial scene makes that pretty clear emotionally. The ninja generally believe they've lost their leader. Zane even mentions that he can no longer sense Lloyd's energy, and seeing everyone gather together for the memorial is one of the most emotional scenes Dragons Rising has given us. Lloyd even receives his own statue, something longtime fans will immediately recognize as what happened in Season 3, when they gave Zane a statue. But despite how emotional those scenes are, I still think they're setting up a comeback rather than a permanent death. The biggest clue is simply that Lloyd is still active within the story. He's communicating, he's aware of what's happening, he's not erased from existence. That tells us Season 5 is probably going to focus on finding a way to bring him back. Now let's move over to the other huge storyline, because Lord Rez quietly accomplishes something that could end up being even more important than Lloyd's disappearance. Throughout the final, we finally learn what Rez had actually been searching for. The mysterious object stolen from the monastery turns out to be an ancient medallion connected to the realms themselves. Earlier in the season, we see that the medallion had already caught the attention of Wu, who recognized that it represents a connection between all of the realms. This instantly makes it much more significant. That's not just another magical artifact. If Rez specifically wanted this item, then his master probably did too. And that's where things start to get really interesting, because Rez doesn't just leave with the medallion. He also gains another dragon icon. That means his connection continues to grow, and every new artifact seems to move him one step closer to whatever his master's true objective really is. But Rez didn't stop with only taking the medallion. At the left side of the hidden stone box, we see the shape of a blade that matches exactly the dragon icon of motion that the Source Dragon of Motion gave to Lloyd at the end of Dragon's Rising Season 2. It would make sense that his master told him about that, since he knows a lot of information about what's going on. He even knew about Eagle's death, but we didn't see that in Rez's hands yet, since he probably hid it somewhere, with some of his other icons he got. That means that Rez now has 5 dragon icons, meaning that he needs 2 more, if possible, since the Source Dragon of Balance died. But if Ryu is already the Source Dragon of Balance, without realizing it, that might mean that he will capture Ryu around the end, to use its power as a 7th Source Dragon, meaning he could only need 1 more Source Dragon icon, which makes sense because there's only 1 more season. The show still hasn't revealed who his master actually is, and at this point, I think that's completely intentional. Season 4 spends most of its time building mystery. Rather than providing answers. Instead of revealing everything now, it saves the biggest questions for later. That would make Season 5 way bigger, and the most important season, since it's the final of Dragon's Rising. Another detail that shouldn't be ignored is where Rez ends the season. He's still in the land of Eternal Dawn, and despite everything that happened, it feels like we barely scratched the surface of what that location actually is. There are still so many mysteries surrounding that place, and I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes one of the main parts moving forward. Looking back at the final as a whole, I think its biggest strength is that it doesn't try to answer every mystery. Instead, it closes some storylines, like the Imperium storyline, and how Jay lost his memories. I think Season 5 is the season where everything finally comes together. The mystery surrounding Rez's master has been teased for multiple seasons now, and after this ending, it feels impossible to delay that reveal much longer. At the same time, Lloyd's current situation is almost guaranteed to become the emotional center of the next storyline. Will the ninja find a way to bring him back? Can someone exist between life and death the same way Wu apparently has? And if Lloyd does return, will he even be the same person? Overall, I think this final did exactly what the season final should do. It delivered emotional moments, left off a huge cliffhanger, and it makes us even more exciting for season 5. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.